How you follow that, huh?
Yes,
Give it a try, give it a try.
13-94, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Betty Ashbury. She's followed by Mr. Clyde Tobler.
My name is Betty Ashbury. I'm 80 years old, and I've lived in this city my whole entire life. You all have really thrown some shocks at that tonight. And some of the things, hey, I even brought my book up here tonight because I was going to read it, okay? The one thing I really want to say to you all, and I want to impress on you, the last time that you all put in feelers for a big job in the city, we hired someone outside of this city when you had a perfectly capable man who had experience and the respect of his fellow firefighters, and we all see how that turned out. Now, if you, let me just pass this by you, but a few days ago, I had a retired city official say to me that if city council will leave Mr. Gyro alone, he might be able to straighten the city out. Well, you know what? You're not leaving him alone. Now, we've got two very capable persons sitting in those seats. And you've just gotten through allotting $60-some thousand to do a study on the regional jail. Now you want to put out more money to go and put out a job list for someone to come in and fill these two very capable seats. I'm hoping that you all will certainly put your thinking caps on and go with people that have had experience in this city, that know our city, and don't pull somebody over here to left field that doesn't know the first thing about our city. The other thing that I want to impress upon you is for a long time, I wondered why people don't want to live in our city, or why that the people that live here have such negative remarks they make about it. But when I picked up the paper this morning and read in headlines, what I read in the headlines this morning, that answered my question, because the way it was put out there, that this city is being run by a racially divided city council. And that's wrong. That's very wrong. We don't want to think that way. I have never, ever, and I hope I never do, judge anybody on their ethnic background or the color of their skin. Because what's on the inside of the person is what really counts. So I'm hoping that you all are going to put on your good thinking caps and hire the right two people for the two positions that are sitting down here to my left. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Clyde Tobler is followed by Dr. Mark Whitaker.
Good evening, Clyde Tobler, 1029 Blair Street, Portsmouth, Virginia. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Member Council, Mr. Rowe, Mr. Wilson, good side and arms. You may have to put me out tonight, and we'll be ready. Just like to say, I'm going to read something to you. I had something else I was going to say, but I'm going to say this. And this is something I very seldom do, write down something. I usually tell you straight from my heart, but I wrote this from my heart too. I am pretty much an average man. And I lived during Jim Crow days, through sorrow, through joy, and through happiness. I have seen you and all of us take care of many things, either wisely or badly. Many times our tax money has been used selfish, thoughtful, or many times careless. I am certain of one thing: it's time to return to love and to our fellow citizens. Now I go back to the day of Black History Month. I see some of you up there. You're of the black race. Have you heard just the mayor say something about, just Mr. Moody mentioned Black History Month. Okay, I will mention Me, for one, I'm a Black History Month. I served my country in 3 wars. I'm 86 years old, and I'm proud of it. I'll be 87 this year. I look back at Ruth Brown, Junius Kellogg, and our most gracious Mayor Holland. This is our Black History City. We got a lot of it here. We got a Medal of Honor here, Black. I don't ever hear you up there saying anything, only Mr. Moody. Shame on you. Anyway, church and state does not mix. I read this in the paper too. Thank you very much, Mayor. You summed this up very nice. Church has no business meddling with city council in this city. Church stay in church. Council, you don't go to church and get in and tell them how to run the church. And what ministers these are that said this, why don't you, the paper should name these people. Stop always saying Black ministers. Is this all the ministers in this city? Because I talked to a couple of ministers today, they said, hey, not me, I'm not in there. So why could the paper say that? I said, well, it said all Black ministers, you're a Black minister. He said, but I'm not in it. This is a shame. Now I have sit over here as a reporter for 2 newspapers. Remember Bess Crawl? Remember Dr. Shirley Hines?
Yes.
You do, Ms. White, took many pictures for y'all.
Yes.
As a newspaper reporter, I sit right there. Ida K. Jordan sitting next to me, one of the greatest ladies that ever wrote for the Virginia Power. And so was the last gentleman that we had here was Dave Forstner. Outside that, I have sat beside a man. One sit there and ate lettuce and carrots all the time. Other one sit there and drink water. That one polish your fingernails and all, and they kept removing them. So I'm a little sick of seeing all this negative thing that's coming up about this city. It's not me coming up here bashing you. Well, 5 of you still think I do, because only one, you, Miss Chown, you, Miss Round, say you wasn't, so I appreciate that. But the other 5, I hope you please consider, if I'm bashing you, let me know. But that ain't gonna stop me. You can throw me out tonight, but I'll be right back next week. Don't make no difference, you can throw me out. But anyway, Mr. Rowe, I told you when you came here, so did Sheriff Watson. I told you, you left it with a clean record. Watch yourself, don't let the city council mess you up. See what I mean? Didn't I tell you that? Okay. Mr. Wilson, I told you the same thing. These are 2 good individuals. Don't let no ministers or nobody come in here and stop playing the race card. I didn't give my life up for 3 wars just to come here, to go back through all this. I stayed in the service to fight for this, and many more people did. But look, people stop using this race card and get this city together. I don't care whether you're black, white, red, or green. Don't make me no different, man or woman. But long as you're a man, a child of God, that's what counts. There ain't but 2 nations. The Jews and Gentiles, and we are Gentiles of color. Thank you.
Dr. Mark Whitaker is followed by Mr. Luke McCoy.
Good evening to Honorable Mayor Kenneth Wright, to our Vice Mayor, Mr. Cherry, and to all of the Honorable Council members. I stand here today because of the process that was revealed as far as how the new city manager and the new city attorney would be selected. And from what was communicated through the community, it was going to be a closed process. However, I understand tonight that process has been changed. However, I still have some concerns because, Mr. Moody, from the report that you gave, you mentioned that it's going through the HR department, which is not a typical way that we search for such high-level positions. And secondly, you did not give a time period. You said that the posting would be for a period of time, and I think we should know what time period a period of time is. And could you share that?
Yes, Dr. Whitaker, thanks for being here. I didn't mention the time period because council hasn't determined the time period as of yet. The other thing that needs to be determined by council will be the scope of speak louder. But the other thing that you asked was human resources. A reference to human resources actually was that human resources, i.e. Tony Small-Bembry, our director of human resources, Mike's back on, I'll tone it down here. She distributed the verbiage for the advertisements. The selection process, once we decide how far to run that ad, and the length, the resumes will come in. Ms. Bembry's part will just be to forward those to City Council. At that point, it's City Council's job to select these two appointees.
Right. My concern with that is that that process may have the appearance of openness, but it may have an absence of fairness. And that is because that's not the typical way, and I'm just curious as to why positions of that magnitude aren't going through a normal search process than going through just the HR department. Also concerned with what will be the criteria for selection. I feel that if the criteria is there, any person who would be eligible for that position would be willing to put their resume on the line and go through a search process because eventually the top candidate should rise to the top. And so I was concerned about that being a closed process, and with this new process, I just want to make sure that our council is encouraged to remember that we need to make sure that all processes that are done, that they are done in a fair and an open manner. Many of you have mentioned tonight about Black History Month, the struggle that we have fought as a people for equality, and to come here and to see what has happened in this process is not about race, it's about the process. And we just want the process to be fair. And for those who are willing to participate in the process, their credentials will speak for themselves. Secondly, I would just like to say that as an assistant pastor at New Bethel Baptist Church, where my father, Bishop Whitaker, has been pastor there now for 49 years, I'm going to direct this to Mr. Meeks because of the racist comment that you made to the Virginia pilot. And there's some of us in here who stand in the prophetic tradition of Amos, and we're not Amaziahs, where we follow what the temple says. And I just want to say to you that this is 2013. This is not 1813 or 1913, it's 2013. And for you to put a threat out that has been a tactic that has been used by racists in the past to shut up black concerns, that is a threat of going to the IRS. I take that as an offense. I take that as a setback to the struggle that we've gone through. And I would think that as a leader of this city, that you would have more sense than to make a comment like that. If that's your feelings and you want to run and get the IRS, then we'll run and get some votes. And I think that that type of mentality has no place in a government of this city where we feel that we can intimidate folks. My grandfather didn't have the law on his side, and he was not intimidated. And I hope that those of you who are on this council don't forget the historical struggle that we have come through to allow processes like this take place and to let statements like that go without being challenged. And so I hope that as we go through this process, that fairness and equality will rise to the top, and that we open this up so that we no longer have these backroom deals that are done, but we open it up for a fair process so that all that can participate, regardless of race, and the best candidates will rise to the top based on the criteria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. Councilman Meeks,
Yes, Dr. Whitaker.
did you need him to come back up?
No, I don't need them to come back up. It is 2013. I don't need you to come back up. You're good.
Well, first of all, I think you need to know how to address people.
I said, Dr.
I don't need you to come back up. It's not.
I mean, that's
not
exactly
the
what
way. I'm just
Yeah, I mean,
saying that's not the way to address people. Yeah.
Dr. Whitaker, I was just repeating exactly what the mayor said. I didn't need you to come back up. But it wasn't a threat. Here, we set policy. And we took a census that we were gonna hire John Rowe and George Wilson, 5 of us. And that was enough because we only need 4. And then over the weekend, it changed. I've seen it for myself. Our last session, Joe Flemings came in here, pulled the mayor after our session right there by the door, and I seen it firsthand. And I'm just saying, that's not gonna be tolerated here. It's not a threat, all right? Well, I don't need the threat. And I wouldn't threaten you. And it's 2013, and you know, as far as racial, I don't believe in that. I don't stand for that. But what I seen at that door, I'm not going to tolerate.
It's not for you to tolerate that.
Mayor?
It's not for you to tolerate.
All right. So for you to come up and say I threatened you, I didn't threaten you. We have to make sure we keep policies. We got to make sure our council members not being influenced outside of this right here, and listen to y'all's opinion. I mean, y'all's. If you have a problem, you have an issue, we're to address it. We have a manager in place to address it. But what I've seen at that door, I'm not going to tolerate it myself.
That's not for you to tolerate because there's no law in this country that says a black minister or any minister cannot speak.
Let him finish, sir, and then you can respond.
I don't need them to respond. I don't need them to respond. And, you know, as far as toleration, I can report anything I want. And that's not a threat. That will be a promise. Okay? All right.
I'm telling you,
Thank you.
your arms are too short to box with God. You can try it if you want, but I'm just saying,
I don't need to box
there's
with
no
God.
law.
Sir, I do not need to box with God.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Just because you're a doctor,
There's
you're
no law.
pastor, point of order.
There's no law that prevents.
Just because you're a mayor of friends, I'm not going to sit up here and listen to your verbal, your mouth.
Mr. Meeks, Dr. Whitaker, thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Meeks. Madam Clerk?
No, I mean, if he wants to, he can take care of his property, it's a lot of property, he's having the mayor.
Mr. Luke McCoy is followed by Ms. Donna Savage.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Wilson, Ms. Clark. I come to you tonight having lived since 1975 in the city, serving 30 years in 7 different positions of city government, rising from the lowest department head in the city the last 3 years as your city manager. Until the 7 of you can come together as a team in that the citizens of this city can wake up in the morning and see a positive article that says Portsmouth is a great city. Portsmouth is a diverse city. It has always been a diverse city. Councilman Randall, it's no different than it was
That's right.
when I worked for you as your city manager. It's no different than it was 30 years ago, or longer, when Mayor Holly was your mayor. It's embarrassing. I don't know who said what. I really don't care. But it should never get to the point that your citizens are embarrassed to get up in the morning and read the newspaper. And for the last 120 days, that's all we have seen. It's not my clock that's ticking. My clock is over for you, but it is your clock. Until we learn to respect each other, to this podium and say what you want to in a nice way. You don't have to be ugly, but you should be factual. You should be truthful. Mayor, you have an awesome responsibility. Exercise it. Be the leader that you want to be. And I'm looking straight at you, Mayor, the same as you'd be looking at me. And until you assume that position, the other 6 members of this council will not follow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Donna Size, followed by Ms. Kentrell Devon.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy. I live in the Woodbine Farm section of Churchland. Principles of Liberty 1. The only reliable basis for sound government and just human relations is natural law. We all came into the physical world with an attribute termed free will. We have the ability to think and to make decisions based on our thoughts and our understanding. We usually become accustomed to the physical laws in a natural way. We learn quickly what we should and should not do in order to assure our physical well-being. For example, we don't touch a hot stove because we know we will get burned. Likewise, we have the responsibility of learning to live in accordance with the spiritual laws and protect our spiritual well-being. Spiritual natural laws is defined as a basic grouping of laws to live by. They help us understand our sense of purpose and meaning in life. These laws, learned from our religious affiliations, guide us to live in right relationship with one another, with the creation, and with the Creator. The responsibility of obeying the spiritual laws is left directly up to us by our conscience. Humankind is a part of nature. We experience the fullness of life by living in proper attunement with natural laws. When we are in tune with these laws, we are in tune with the Creator. When we are in tune with the Creator, all knowledge becomes a major component of our very being. Nature is in tune with natural laws. For example, in springtime, plants sprout, buds form, and soon we have colorful scented flowers. As American citizens, it is our duty to demonstrate God's government through our knowledge and experience of natural law. Ronald Mann, Deputy Director of the Commission on the Bicentennial of the United States Constitution, held in 1987, wrote, "Today we have become a nation based on a society of rule by man. The Constitution, once held in high esteem, is now often ignored, changed to meet the opinions of judges, or considered outdated, whereas our founding fathers revered the Constitution and considered it a document written for the ages. In spite of the blessings given to us, many hate this nation's form of government and are dedicated to destroying it, while others are indifferent, unmoved, and care less about its rapidly deteriorating condition. They seem to be materialistic and only think about pleasurable or unpleasurable feelings, with the attitude of letting the government take care of things." Peter Marshall wrote, "The choice between us is plain: Christ or chaos, conviction or compromise, discipline or disintegration." I am rather tired of hearing about our rights and privileges as American citizens. The time has come when we ought to hear about the duties and responsibilities of our citizenship. Americans' future depends upon their accepting and demonstrating God's government. End of quote. Mr. Mann believes that earlier generations in America made mistakes, but nothing comparable to the betrayal and abandonment of the present ones. We must reverse this trend if we are to survive as a free nation. It is our highest desire that the people of America will afford the time to read and study the book, A Miracle That Changed the World, the 5,000-Year Leap, Principles of Freedom 101, and then implement the precepts in their personal lives and communities. It is still not too late to reverse the present trend, but we must start now. He believes foresight through hindsight produces insight, which we so badly need now. It was Patrick Henry that said, "I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and this is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future by, but the past. Recent experience should be a serious warning that we have lost our way and need to drink from the well of knowledge provided by our founding fathers. Unless the people of this nation take seriously the storm flag waving, we are doomed to repeat the past mistakes of those who refuse to pay attention to history and end up in the graveyard of fallen nations. We have the knowledge and time to make a course correction if we will. The object of the Founding Fathers was to establish a system of people's law where the government is kept under the control of the people and political power is maintained at the ballot center, with enough government to maintain security, justice, and good order, but not enough government to abuse the people. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next speaker is Ms. Kentrell Devon, and she's followed by Ms. Nancy Lamar.
Good evening, my name is Kentrell M. Devon. I live in Newport. I'm Mr. Mayor, Council, Bishop. I have never been more upset being a black woman at the age of 38 than I have been over the last few days. You all have seen me disappointed, heartbroken. You have seen it all, but you have never seen me angry. But tonight I stand as an angry black woman. I have never taught my children to call color. We was a military family. We traveled many places, and I've always told them, never call color. This city of Portsmouth has so disappointed me from leadership, the stance that we have placed you in, the trust, the disrespect that we have been thrown back in our faces. I am heated. And if it wasn't for the bishop prayers this very night, I'm not sure what I would say to you, Mr. Meeks. Because one thing I do know, it's not you that I need in my life, but it's the body of Christ. How dare you attack God's kingdom and their leaders? Yes, you are a leader. We respected you. You sit in that seat, and we claim honor. But then you go against other leaders because of color. It is a disgrace. How can I raise my family this way? All right, I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Ms. Nancy Lamartin is followed by Mr. Steve Carroll.
Good evening to all. My name is Nancy Lamartin. I'm a past president of the Shade Terrace Civic League, and I reside at 212 Chesapeake Avenue in Portsmouth, Virginia, in Shade Terrace. I would like to speak to the tunnel toll issue tonight, but feel the need to address the non-agenda speaker issue first, as what happens with the tunnel tolls may well be dependent upon concepts and strategies presented by non-agenda speakers. My concern here is that too many good ideas that could help the city will not be shared with the voting public if non-agenda speakers cannot communicate them. Like you, I'm very concerned about name-calling or impugning another's character, especially if such statements are untrue. And right now I'm going to speak to another aspect of the non-agenda speaker issue. I suggest that limiting access to part of the city council meeting via the city's website and TV broadcasts results in unequal and lesser access to information by our city's disabled population in violation of the American with Disabilities Act. It's often referred to as ADA. Some people with disabilities cannot attend evening city council meetings due to their disability, but can view the meeting rightfully in its entirety from their homes via the city TV station and or website. Examples of handicaps that may be accommodated this way include people with night blindness, arthritis, or paraplegia, and there's so many more. These people can easily be and have been accommodated by meetings being deployed electronically, and I applaud the city for doing that. People with disabilities by law are supposed to have equal access to that of able-bodied individuals. I contend that precluding them from viewing the entire meeting to include non-agenda speakers, again, is in violation of ADA. I recommend the current rule blocking out non-agenda speakers be placed on the next city council meeting agenda. The resources contained below, and I'll give them, if I have time, I'll read them. If I don't, I'll give them to the lawyer. Shared with all city council members, and the ruling reversed. To attain and maintain greater civility, I also suggest that current rules pertaining to civility be read aloud prior to non-agenda speakers talking, and that said rules regarding civility and impugning another's character be enforced. Now, I know you have a little booklet, I think right in front of you, and it has the rules of the city council meeting, and I believe there's something in there, Bird told me, that there was something in there about civility and maintaining civility in city council meetings. So I think that needs to be enforced. Enforcement rule consequences also need to be enacted if they don't already exist. Additionally, speakers should be reminded that slander may lead to legal action. An enforcement rule pertaining to incivility should be written under the guidance of your legal department. Once a rule is cleared as legal and not infringing upon free speech, it needs to be put on the agenda and voted on in a follow-on city council meeting. If no enforcement consequences exist, the incivility will likely continue. And I want to read something. I've got two things here off the internet from the ada.gov website. That's a reliable website. I'm going to quote. The Americans with Disabilities Act, quote, if the government entities receive federal funding, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 generally requires that state and local governments provide qualified individuals with disabilities equal access to their programs, services, and activities, unless doing so would fundamentally alter the nature of their programs, services, or activities, or would impose undue burden. It's not going to impose an undue burden, financially or any other way, to put these things up on the net or broadcast them. Also, access to civil life by people with disabilities is a fundamental goal of the Americans with Disabilities Act. To ensure that this goal is met, Title II of the ADA requires state and local governments to make their programs and services accessible to persons with disabilities. In addition, entities must ensure effective communication, including the provision of necessary auxiliary aids and services, so that individuals with disabilities can participate in civic life. If there's any questions, okay, and I will give this to the lawyer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, very much. Okay. Mr. Moody,
Thank
you heard the statement?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Martin.
All right.
Thanks for being here, though.
Thank you.
You mentioned council rules and rules on civility. Section 5 of council rules titled Decorum and Order. The first couple of sentences read, no language or conduct detrimental to the function of the meeting shall be permitted. The presiding officer, in our case the mayor, shall maintain the dignity of the meeting, preserve decorum and order, and shall call out of order any person violating these rules of order and procedure. With that, that calling folks out of order should be fair and balanced. The last meeting, there was a speaker here, Ms. Knight, she's in audience tonight. She was called out of order and asked to sit down for calling someone, and in fact, calling someone disgraceful. I won't say who was the object of that, but it was someone on this dais. And tonight, Mayor, the same word was used to someone on this dais, so I expect you to be fair and balanced when you're wielding the gavel as the presiding officer, and I think my colleagues would agree with that, that it needs to be fair and balanced, and I think we have a consensus for that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Lamar.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Mr. Meeks?
I want to go back and finish what I had to say. We hired, or we were going to hire, John Wright and George Wilson because we had the right without putting it on the street because they were our interns. And it was fabulous agreed to do that. The mayor was not happy about that. He expressed his concern. He was not happy about that. That was on a Monday night. Tuesday night, we had a visitor. I already said who it was. Then this weekend, it all changed. Now, you know, you could have I'm not worried about it because I know it's not in my heart. I don't see color. I never have. But we have to make sure we don't have nobody influencing our decisions. And I think it's fair. I seen it with my own 2 eyes, and that was my opinion. They might not have took it like that, but that was my opinion. And that's how I came up with my opinion, because I seen and heard exactly what was said. And I'll repeat what was said. He has been to Norfolk, he has been to Suffolk, he has been to Isle of Wight, he's been to all these other cities. They didn't want him there. Why do we want him here? And John, I was offended by that, and I was, and they said it right there at the door, and I didn't care for it. And I'm a big John Rowe fan, and I don't care how this goes. You and George had 5 people to vote y'all in, and it changed. And that was not fair to y'all after you had 5 people come to y'all and congratulate y'all on getting the job. And then the rug gets pulled from underneath of you, and then an article gets put in, and then everybody, I'm a big boy. I got big shoulders. I can take what they throw at me because I know it's not a racial bone in my body. All right? So, and as far as going against the bill, what I said was, you do not mix church and state. And that's all I ask. You keep church on one side, state on the other. And everybody knows that rule. Everybody knows the guidelines. And that's what I was saying while me and Mr. Whitaker, I do want to apologize for my actions and my conduct to Dr. Whitaker. I am a liaison on the school board, so me and him will talk, and if it's not today, it will be another day, and we'll air our issues out personally. So, all right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meeks. All right, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Steve Carroll, and he's followed by Sheriff Bill Watson.
Mayor, council staff, Steve Carroll, 3112 Rivers Drive. I honestly had absolutely no intention of being here tonight. Quite frankly, I've been so discouraged and disgusted with the municipal government of this city over the last 2 years that I really wasn't going to come. I got a phone call at work from a neighbor telling me about this article in the paper tonight. I'll address a few things on it. Let me start with the positive. I was a member of, and also actually the chairman of the courts panel. I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Wilson on a number of occasions on that. Primarily it was Mr. Oates. Absolutely nothing I heard or saw would cause me concern about Mr. Wilson's ethics, his capabilities, or his integrity as the permanent city manager of this, or excuse me, the city attorney of this city. Absolutely nothing. I think he's an outstanding candidate. I did my own research on Mr. Rowe. I've talked to neighbors. I've talked to people that have known Mr. Rowe for almost 50 years. And I got nothing but high praise for his ability as a city manager. And I think it speaks highly of the fact that he has served other cities, not negative. And I think both individuals will serve this city well and were good candidates to choose and would serve this city well in its dire need. Because I'll tell you right up front, competence devours this city. Incompetence devours this city right now on council, on staff. And we need 2 gentlemen like this. Now, I've run for city council twice. I've served under the same pastor for 20 years. My pastor would not allow me to politic from his pulpit. And it's not his pulpit, it's God's pulpit. I didn't even bother asking because I knew where he stood, and I think it's a sound policy biblically and ethically not to allow politicking from God's pulpit. And those who prostitute God's pulpit with politicking are unworthy of his calling. Now, I don't know what went on, Mr. Meeks, because I wasn't there. I don't have a problem with an individual approaching a member of city council and trying to sway their opinion. That's the American system and the American way. What I do have a problem with is 2 gentlemen with outstanding credentials being told that they were going to get the job, and the motive behind now the reason why they are not going to get the job, or at least they're not going to get the job as they were told earlier. I have a problem with the motive behind that. I agree with you, Mrs. Randall. Actions do speak louder than words. I agree with a prior speaker that transparency and openness is very important. And I trust that these two gentlemen will conduct themselves better than the way the funds in our school administration have been handled over the last several years. I have every confidence of that. These two gentlemen deserve the positions they were originally told they were going to get. And before anybody gets up here and wants to criticize me over my racial preferences, I do not have a racial bone in my body, and I work very hard to make sure they do not overcome me. I have two relatives that adopted two black children, so nobody needs to preach to me about race. And I'll call a spade anytime I need to call it. And I think there is racial division on this council, and I think the motivations for a lot of the things that have been done on this council lately have been racially motivated. I think they've also been politically motivated, and it's disgusting. And this city is teetering, and if you people don't get your act together and start acting responsibly like statesmen instead of little children, this city's going under. It's going under, and I'm disgusted with it. I'm not going to storm out of the room. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen to what you've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Sheriff Bill Watson is followed by Reverend Melvin Mariner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, City Council. I'm here tonight, actually praise, I'm not here to point finger at anybody. We got loud in the crowd up a little bit. Don't pass out there. But seriously. It's different for me, but seriously, you know, on a serious note, we do have some problems in the city. We've got problems in the U.S. government. We've got problems in our state government. We have problems in our local government. It happens. We're human beings. We make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. The best thing to do is learn by our mistakes. They talk about racial division. I don't see where we're racially divided, and we can't be racially divided. We can't afford to be. We're supposed to be one nation under God. It doesn't say black or white. It says one nation under God. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that Portsmouth can pull itself up by its bootstraps and can survive. You know, you take the bishop. I get to pick on him all the time because we're best friends. We've been together for a long time, and I don't think anybody can be any closer without being DNA related than the bishop and I. We're as close as any two brothers can be. And we said we talk about things. We talk about black, white, male, female, the whole 9 yards. It's nothing personal there. We never take anything personal. And you can have good and bad in any race. You can't judge a whole race by one or two people. Okay? It's just not the way it is in this day and time. The thing we have to do is look ahead as a people and work together. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, as a general rule, a sheriff and a city manager doesn't usually get along in any city or county. But I'm going to tell you what, you got a diamond in the rough here. And I'm going to tell you, John Rowe has been one heck of a gentleman, and he's kind of like an oxymoron. I described him as a financial wizard with a common sense approach. If that ain't an oxymoron, I don't know what is. Because you can't find it in this day and time. But you look up the word gentleman in dictionary, his pictures in there. He was selected as our city manager on Tuesday night. He was in my office on Wednesday morning, wondering if we could work together for the good of the city. Same way with George Wilson. George calls me all the time about grants, where we can bring more money into the city. John's been talking, how can we save the city money? What can we do to make the city money? The man will return a phone call. We've even been to lunch together before. We didn't talk politics. We talked about what we could do to help this city save money, what we can do to make money. I think that y'all need to get your heads together. And like I said, I'm not pointing finger at anybody. I'm not anybody to be judging anybody else, okay? I don't rank that high. That's why they have judges in courts. And then there's the Almighty. So I'm just a peon. But I work for the people. And I love the people in Portsmouth. I love my city. And that's one thing that Kirsten and I talk about all the time, how much we love our city. We've got to get our act together and be as one. Okay? Please consider these two men. They've done an excellent job. They stepped up to the plate when we needed them. They didn't have to do it. We were in a crisis. They were there for us. Now let's be there for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Councilman Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. No need to come back, Sheriff. Case in point with John Rowe, tonight, council was presented a solution for the Social Security offset. That problem's been going on for 3 years without a solution. He came tonight during the public works session, unveiled a solution. And I'm pretty sure that council will go along with it. It makes sense. It'll eliminate a lot of pain for those who are hit on their 65th birthday by the loss of 50% of whatever their Social Security is. So case in point, you're absolutely right about John Rowe and also George Wilson. But to your point about this council being racially divided, I have seen no evidence of that. I've been on council 14 years. I ran for council with Charles Whitehurst. In fact, back in the day, we made the Civic League circuit quite often, called it salt and pepper. Never could figure out who was the pepper, who was the salt. Also ran with Miss Randall. Some people probably have forgotten that. I have supported Charles. I've been against Charles on things. I've supported Ms. Randall. I worked with Paige Cherry. We work together. Do we agree 100% on every issue that comes down the pike? Absolutely not. I will say that the solution that hopefully to get us over this unpleasantness, I'll call it, for lack of a better word, Paige came up with a good solution. I said, Paige, that sounds good. We need to get past this. We need to get back focused on the work to do in the city. And so I've worked with others. I've worked with everybody. I've worked with Elizabeth. I've agreed with Elizabeth. I've disagreed with Elizabeth. The bishop, I probably agreed with the bishop more because he's got friends in higher places. And I'm just kidding about that. Me and the mayor, if you notice, whenever the mayor turns the mic over, I always thank him. I've always done that for every mayor. I respect the position. And the mayor's got a lot of good qualities, and I'll say that tonight. And I've agreed with him at times and disagreed with him a lot of other times. But I disagree with people who say that this council is racially divided, because we're not. I see no evidence in that. We'll disagree on things, and just because it's a black disagreeing or white disagreeing, that's not racial. That's human nature. I think it's good for the citizens that we have a council that's willing to debate the issues and not be a 7-0 all the time. I see no merit in that. It tells me that the issues aren't getting discussed enough. But I don't think we're divided racially at all. So I'll argue that point. I'll dispute that point. I've been here 14 years. See no evidence of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Edmonds?
Mr. Mayor, I wasn't going to say anything, but Bill inspired me. I think when you talk about church and state, you really got to understand what you're talking about when you talk about church and state, first of all. And I think when we share with reporters, that sometimes reporters are looking for a story, sometimes any way they can get it, and finding the right person sometime at the wrong time will cause a lot of things to come up. It's easier to say no comment and to come to the council chambers if you want to hear something, or even a reporter if you would like to sign up as a non-agenda speaker. To be inclusive with something, I don't have to say I'm a black pastor. I can just say I'm a pastor. Yeah, when I stand up, you know. And I think sometimes we have to be careful because my job is that of pastoring. And I have great struggle when people try to demean that office when pastors are to influence their congregation and help lead them to a better day and greener paths and still waters. And we are to listen to the citizens that come in Tuesday after Tuesday when we're in session, to listen to what they have to say. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it hurtful, but that's the way that they vent. We can't afford in this council setting the luxury of venting the way that some that come to talk to us vent. We have to be above that. And we have to swallow it up. Steve Harrington used to tell me that when I first came on council. Don't let it get to you. And he was right, because sometimes people can be nice nasty and say some hurtful things. But we got to man up or woman up and do our due diligence. When people get up and say that we're incompetent, that bothers me, because I don't think I'm incompetent. I have a doctorate degree, that's a terminal degree, and you're not incompetent to get that. Not bragging or boasting, but that's just the way it is. And God is with us in everything. And there's always somebody that doesn't like us to bring God up, but you cannot live without bringing God up. Keep living and somebody will say that over your grave. But the truth of the matter is that we all going to get some things wrong and some things right. We're not always going to vote your way or our friend's way. But I always look at voting in such a way where I can go to bed at night and have a good night's sleep. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I don't worry because I feel like listening to all the information that I need to make a responsible decision. I feel good about that. Mr. Rowe and George are great. The city is just moving. I am so hyped when I come to the meeting and hear all these good reports about where we're moving, but we never get a chance to share that because we get stuck in mess like this. And I think it's high time for us to get unstuck. I didn't get on council. I didn't run for council to just to be a knot on a log, but I came as a servant to serve the people of Portsmouth where I've been in all of my life. And whether I do it the way you think I should do it, that's up to you. But I do it to the best of my ability, and I believe the rest of these colleagues up here do it. Some of them make crazy blunders. I probably made one. Probably have said something that I shouldn't have said and regretted it. But we do have the right to change our minds. And we're not changing our mind predicated on somebody telling us you need to do it this way. And I take difference with that. And so if we're to our own selves be true, then as sure as night follows day, we cannot be false to anyone. So to all of you that are here, you can say what you want, but I tell you, I believe that we give the best that we can. Might always be right, but we do the best that we can. And so when that's reciprocated, watch how we roll. And Gary Harkey, if you want to print something good, say Portsmouth on the move. Try that. That'll sell just as bad as any scandalous thing in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to wait till after Reverend Blunt speaks, but I think I better say this while I'm thinking of it. Because I didn't come prepared to talk either, but Dr. Whitaker made me think of something, and Mr. Martin made me think of something, and I'm looking at a room full of 7 other elected officials in this audience. And for Sheriff Watson and Cindy Morrison and Steve Heretic and Ray Smith and Linda Ridenauer and Mark Whitaker and Costello Williams and the 7 of us who are elected, you understand this, and I mean this in the nicest way to the rest of you. You put your name on a ballot, you put your spouse, your children, your parents, your finances, your business life, your spiritual life, pretty much your whole life under a microscope for the world to see. And that's not easy. We all have skeletons in our closets and things we'd just be pretty happy that everybody didn't know. And then we get up here and we try to make the best decisions we can with the information we have to work with. And just like Dr. Whitaker and Costello Williams sat on the school board, and actually I think Dr. Stuckwich was selected before you two got there, but if you have opportunity to select another superintendent at some point, you will make a decision how to do that. When the PRHA director, Danny Cruz, of many years, was taken ill and retired, the PRHA board of directors chose to hire from within a very qualified individual who had a lot of years of service to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority in Mr. Hal Short. They didn't go out and search. They knew they had a gem in-house. When Mr. Rowe came into the city of Portsmouth as the interim manager, he had a problem with the fire department. We needed a chief. So what did he do? He went and pulled out of retirement one of the finest firefighter deputy chiefs ever served this city in Beck Barfield, and brought him back to be the chief of the fire department with loads of years of institutional knowledge and how this city operates. That was the manager's prerogative to do that, just like it would be the school board's prerogative to do that, PRHA board to hire their person, their director. Ms. LaMartin, we have a rule, you talked about our rules, in Portsmouth City Council Operating Guidelines, revised October 4th of 2005. Rule number 5 says, after the council reaches a consensus or a vote is taken, the council will speak with one voice. Once the council has taken a vote, the members will let the decision stand and avoid undermining the council's stated direction and decision. Kind of like the decision of a supermajority of this council to turn the cameras off right now. That stands. You all are complaining about it, but you don't see those of us who've changed our mind up here complaining about it. A supermajority of this body decided 2 weeks ago that we wanted to hire the bird in the hand with the institutional knowledge that a supermajority of this body thought was doing a good job. That was our decision, that is our prerogative. You can disagree, but it doesn't mean the process is wrong. That's what you hired us to do. This is not a black and white problem. This is a right and wrong problem. I'm very unhappy with what's transpired over the last couple of days, on all fronts. It's ugly, it's horrible, nobody wants to talk about it, but I'm glad we're talking about it. I hope that when we finish this process, whatever this is we're going through, we'll come back and stand by the decision I was proud to stand by a week ago. But in any event, everybody's going to have to get along. Everybody's going to have to man up, and everybody's going to have to learn to disagree in a more agreeable fashion, or this city's never going to go forward. Curtis is right. You know, in the last, 4 meetings, council meetings I've been to in my 2 months here, there's a lot of great stuff going on, and we've got to get our, what together and move forward and get beyond all this drama. There's always a drama. We've got to get over the drama and work together and stand by our decisions and do what we say and mean what we say. And that's it.
Thank you, Reverend. Madam Clerk.
Reverend Melvin Mariner. Okay. Our final speaker is Reverend Milton Blunt. And Reverend Blunt is our final speaker this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, as I come before you, as a pastor in this community. I've been serving this community of Portsmouth for 20 years. I serve with a number of different organizations throughout this community, one being Church and Community in Action, the other being the Martin Luther King Jr. Steering Committee. I was intending to come to the meeting this evening, but not to speak. But after reading the article this morning, I felt pressed to come, not only to come, but to also stand before you as a non-agenda speaker on this evening. I am concerned, and I think the word that describes my concern is outrage. Outrage for two reasons, one being that race has become a part of a conversation that was all about process. Our conversation was not about the race, nor was it about whether or not the two persons, city manager, city attorney, whether or not they were competent to do the job or not, but it was all about the process. I do recall early on, when I first came back to the city to serve in this capacity of pastor, that there was a similar situation with the school system, with the school board, and there were some questions raised concerning the process because they wanted to promote within. And we raised some issues with it, and as a result, I think that we have probably one of the greatest school superintendents in the state of Virginia. Not saying that either our city attorney or city manager would not rise to the top to be the greatest in their capacity of serving the city, but we were concerned about the process. And so it was never, ever a conversation about race. And so I became outraged and concerned that it would become a conversation about race. But I also am outraged because of the fact that a public official, an elected official, city councilman meets, in my opinion, would use tactics of intimidation, imply or suggest, and you have the right to do such, but to suggest and imply that if we investigate and find this out, this to be the case or what have you, then we would call the IRS, and in an effort to silence the voices of those who seek to speak truth to power. That became a great concern. I served with Martin Luther King Jr. Steering Committee as a member of the community, as a pastor who serves in the community, but I served not to use my church to promote anything, but to bring my own intellect to this process, to bring my own concern, to bring issues that affect the people that I serve. As pastor of the New Bible Church in the city of Portsmouth, I'm always concerned about the people that I serve. And so I was outraged to read that in the paper on this morning. And I know that there are those who talk about the separation of church and state. And I can appreciate that argument and understand that argument. But the reality is, within our African American community, for those of us who do not understand it, the church has always played an integral role in the outcome of events, social events that have affected men and women throughout this community. And I think, without question, Portsmouth is a great city. It is really a diamond in the rough. It has wonderful and great potential. And one of the strengths of the city has been the fact that we've had such a strong presence of the church in this community, whether it's African American church or non-African American church. And we've been very active in terms of shaping some things and determining and helping to influence the outcome of events. It's interesting that the name of Dr. King was mentioned earlier tonight, and we do know that he was a Baptist preacher. He was the leader of a church, and during his time, many of perhaps even his colleagues, some African Americans, some non-African Americans, did not necessarily agree with all of his stance. That is what facilitated his letter from the jail cell in Birmingham. And so the fact of the matter is the church plays a very intricate role in what happens, and I know that many of you have called upon us for support when you were running for re-election or running for election, and we were there to give it, and we will be there in the future, I'm certain. But I wanted to raise that concern tonight. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Randall?
I would just like to say to all of the colleagues that are here with us, there are many things that we go through, and we never want to appear to be in any way inattentive to the wishes and needs of our people. You help us to have the heartbeats that we have because we love our city. I also want to personally say to my pastor, Dr. Mark Whitaker, I apologize for what has taken place here this afternoon because I know where your heart is. I know where we've all come from. But by the same token, we deserve to give courtesy to anyone who stands before us and speaks. Bishop, would you not concur? Yes. We owe that to individuals. We are not here to always agree with what your point of view is. But we are here because you put us here to listen to your point of view, internalize it, and come up with a decision that we feel is the right one to make. It may not be the right one to you, but we have to think about the whole Portsmouth family. We love our Portsmouth family, and we believe that you love us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here. So I say to you, reach out. I want you to do something this evening. Sometimes we don't touch one another enough. Reach out and touch somebody. Just reach out and touch somebody. You know what I noticed as you reached out and touched someone? And I thought it was the sweetest thing. Everybody had a smile on your face. And with that, I say we adjourn the meeting.
Well done. Well done.
Johnny, tell somebody.